Beast Ferry location. And what we did with our time kind of this past month is really try and study the shopping center as a whole and make sure we're designing this fuel center per what's at this Somerville location specifically and giving you something kind of unique that hasn't been done before at other fuel centers. Taking some things from the Beast Ferry location, taking some things from the shopping center specifically, and kind of giving you something that's very specific to this plan. So we've added some pictures of the shopping center itself just to give you reference between the two. A few things we did take from this location. So the shiplap from the Tanner part of towards the top of the building is one thing we were looking at, as well as the brackets that are being shown. We updated our renderings, which you'll see kind of later in this submittal. If we want to keep moving forward to those. I keep going. Yeah, so these are our proposed new elevations after we kind of took a look and made some revisions to the fuel center. As you'll see, we've kind of changed up the kiosk just a little bit to change the coloring to match exactly what's out at the shopping center. And with the top lip, the tannish color, and then the brick underneath, which is exactly what we have out at Beast Ferry right now. We also added screening to the merchandisers that are next door. So you'll see the new brick screening with the roof that matches the kiosk and the canopy as well. So it kind of fits into the rest of the shopping center and the fuel center itself. We did update the canopy columns a little bit more like what you asked for, with the brick coming about 1/2 to 3/4 up with a nice cap on top. And then the steel column coming the rest of the way up to the roof. We also added, again, similar to the brackets you'll see in the shopping center, we added some brackets on the fuel center as well. Ended up making these black to pop a little bit more and didn't really want to make them tan against the color underneath the canopy because we figured those colors might clash a little bit as well. The black also hoping to match the shopping center too. You'll notice if you go back to the pictures of the rest of the shopping center, there's some black accents throughout the rest of the smaller shops, not just at the Harris Teeter. So it kind of fits in a little bit better in that location as well. A couple other minor things we did move the propane cages over behind the screen wall. Ended up finding a transformer box located in the existing pole to tie to. So we don't have a transformer we need to worry about screening either anymore. And yeah, other than that, we did update renderings too. So these elevations are updated as well as the renderings if you'd like to see a few other views from the shopping center itself. So you can kind of see here a little bit more lifelike view of what the fuel center would look like. We do have those merchandiser screens towards the kiosk, the brackets that you'll see in black, and the steel columns coming up to the roof. It's a little hard to see from the bottom of the roof as well, but underneath the canopy will have that similar shiplap design of the paneling, similar to what the shopping center has as well. But yeah, happy to hear any comments, concerns, questions that you guys might have. I'm happy to run through anything else you might have concerns about.
All right, thank you. Greg,
No comments.
Hart. Anything else you have?
I think that's it. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you listening. We'll entertain a motion for final approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? There being none, call for the vote. All say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is proposed Starbucks drive-through. If you could state your name and your role in the project, please.
So this second item is a request for conceptual review of proposed redevelopment of the former Rite Aid site for actually a Starbucks. Staff comments, this is a small freestanding 2,500 square foot building, 560 square feet covered patio area. There are 15 stacking spaces from the start of the line to the drive-through window. Engineering is concerned about an ADA accessible pedestrian route from the public way. I know that at the last meeting, a pedestrian connection was requested from Bacon's Bridge into and through the site. Don't know if it has to be ADA accessible, if there are other routes that can be taken. The building is consistent with the overall design guidelines, utilizing brick and metal canopies with brackets that echo the proposed brackets on the Harris Teeter canopy. Landscaping materials must meet the minimum size requirements as described in section 8.7.1 of the Somerville UDO. And the current planting schedule does not meet the minimum planting sizes. So I can then turn this over to the applicant.
Elliot Locklear Consulting and Site Design, and Michael is DP3 doing the art.
I should be.
Okay, must not be a wide angle mic. Okay, speak direct. Okay, this is the other half of the lot that of the previous submittal on the Harris Teeter fuel facility, and it will be developed as a Starbucks with outdoor seating and drive-through. It is a bit of a obviously the shape makes it a little, nothing is square from two directions. So to have the drive-through with a pass-by lane and to be able to stack enough cars, this orientation was the only one that would fit. We attempted to square up with the Bacon's Bridge Road and more squared up with the Teeter gas canopy, but it wouldn't cooperate. Couldn't get parking and drive-through on the same site like that. So we square up with the buildings in the shopping center. They're already there on the drive coming in. And to me, the site, I've looked at it so much, the site self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
We can just, I think just roll into architecture as well.
Yes, I'm Mike Zieber with DP3 Architects. Here to answer any questions you guys might have about the buildings, or any suggestions you might have. This is the Bacon's Bridge view. We were going to do a hardy panel smooth wall above the shed roof that's over the patio there, with a tongue and groove ceiling with some fans and some lights hanging down. We have one color brick shown right now. I know it doesn't really read very similar to the one the Harris Teeters just showed, or the fuel station just showed, but it will be that matching Phoenix brick. We just need to get our SketchUp software to be able to do that, I guess, is our issue with the matching. Shopping center brick, correct. When you go around the other side, I know Elliot has planned some trees and some nice landscaping to break up that solid facade. That is actually the Starbucks kitchen side, so we don't have a lot of opportunity for windows, unfortunately, on that area. The drive-through side is the bathroom on the front corner of the patio, and then it also has the kitchen, like I mentioned. So we're limited with fenestration on that side. However, we do have, and I'm not sure we have a view of it or not, we do have some relief in the brick with some arches and some additional brick detailing to help break that up. I'm sorry, some flat, they're not arches, just some flat work.
It's just. I'm sorry. It's actually preliminary. They were here for conceptual last year.
The white line, those are sconces.
So the sconce would typically be on pilaster rather than in the,
We could certainly move them.
I think
over
that
to
would-
pilasters. I think since the trees, we have the trees now lined with those window or the setbacks, so that makes sense to actually move those over.
yeah, I would look at that and see what it looks like at night and what those sconces really.
I agree. I agree. We can definitely make that change.
The one on the front under the porch is also a little bit odd. And if the intent is to have people out there in the evening with the lights are on, you may want to look at a nighttime view to see if the lights are really helping or hurting, accentuating the design. And the little cage in the back is kind of odd. But
Yeah, we're kind of, that's an OSHA requirement. Anytime you're over 22 feet, you have to have a cage. Our other option with that might be to cut the parapet down so that you kind of have a step through. With the
you can't
parapet.
get at the roof from the inside like most buildings.
That's not typical for Starbucks. I don't know where they would put it. We could look at that, but we've never done one like that for Starbucks. That might be a challenge as far as
What their standard is.
what their standard is. However, that is the kitchen right there, so we can certainly look at that.
Yeah, it's just it's reminiscent of like the 20s buildings in a big city, not,
Yeah, typically that's in
Old
the rear
Somerville.
of the building. I think in this particular case, with that being on the main street facade, I think they would be willing to look at possibly doing a roof hatch. I guess the question is inside whether we would have room to have a ladder accessing the hatch with their equipment layout.
other than that, it looks good.
I think it looks pretty good too. Curious about the possibility of, there's like one kind of rogue sconce to me, and it's right at the front under the porch.
The one on the right.
Yeah, is there any, I don't know what's going on in the plan there, but is there any opportunity for windows maybe?
That's the restroom behind there. There's not an opportunity for windows, but we could bring a feature similar to what we have on the right-hand side there and do a little bit of brick detailing.
Okay. My only other question would be so the porch is pretty wide and fairly short, and I think some of that's accentuated by the width of the columns and the fact that those brackets kind of spread out a lot. Just my observation is maybe to consider narrowing the columns up and tightening up the brackets a little bit so it doesn't seem so squatty.
Sure.
But other than that, I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think that right now they're emulating the pilaster on the left, but they don't need to be that wide. We can certainly narrow those up and get the proportions working a little bit better.
Just a little quick comment on the site. Elliot, did I notice the drive-through lane was pavers or had some specialty paving on the bypass lane?
Actually, what we're looking to use there is called a geogrid, where it can actually be grass,
Mhm.
the other pavers.
Okay. Anything else on y'all side you'd like to discuss or bring up?
Only if you have questions.
That wasn't real clear about where's the planting? Is this the extent of the planting? Or
No, it's on the landscape plan.
can we look at that again?
I'm trying to find it. There we go.
All right.
A fair bit of it is existing plant material, and then we added some things at the kind of the top page north, I guess you'd call it. There was a driveway there. There is currently a driveway there very close to the intersection, which we're eliminating and shifting it down for a common driveway. So that's all new plantings in that area until it gets back to the existing either the big like this, the grasses or not roses that kind of alternate as you go down.
Yeah, I was more interested in, is there anything that's, gonna be bigger? Or is it all just little shrubs like the architectural?
No,
drawing
the
shows?
rendering done long before the landscaping plan was done.
Mhm.
Had to be
Why don't you just point out specifically on the screen where you have bigger
Okay.
plants?
If you look at your planning schedule on the left, there are live oaks, crepe myrtles, and then the Japanese red myrtle is right beside the handicap parking space to kind of be an ornamental single
Mhm.
accent tree. The areas that were large enough for the live oaks, such as at the top where the walkway goes across the exit of drive-through, those would be live oaks, and over in the upper right, enough area there for a oak. So most of the remainder, like where you have the 2 parking spaces and a couple of trees indicated there, those are the crepe myrtles. And then between the drive-through lane and the entrance into the parking area, those would be crepe myrtles. Not really enough. I didn't think enough room for something big that's going to get big.
The symbols don't match. Like for the trees, the end islands, the symbols aren't really accurate. To me, usually they're graphically shown a lot bigger than they are. So I think there's tree-wise, there's a little bit more than it kind of appears on the screen. But describe again, you're saving the existing planting along
On the
Bacon's Bridge?
frontage, on Bacon's Bridge and the entrance.
I've always thought that planting was a little sparse. It could use more. It just, and the plan reads as like it's going to be pretty sparse, even the new planting that's going in. I think it just, I think some of it is the graphics of it, but it just seems like it's not enough. It looks like there's going to be a lot of lawn. I think around the building that could probably be primarily shrubs and no lawn. Just something to consider. We want to have, I can't remember, and I can't quite read on this screen what the planting is between the kind of between along the main entry drive in. So what I think would be successful is if it somewhat matches the right hand side of the street, and you may have done that. But I think that needs to look like a complete street.
Yeah, because the ones on the other
True.
side of the street by the sign are some can't recall the name, but they're fairly scraggly. It's the ones with the like stalks of little tiny yellow flowers on them. They bloom for a week and then they're bare the rest of the year.
Forsythia. I think it's
Forsythia,
Forsythia.
that's the one. Thank you very much. That's most of what's along that side. So I didn't try to match that. What I think I was using some Orphidosporum and some boxwood, some bayberry along where it was shrub sizes, and then the along the drive-through side, that's an area that's not going to get any sun. So I had camellias at the kind of the column line between the windows of the column lines that could get up kind of tall, that do well in the shade, and underneath that is cast iron. And then from the edge of the cast iron out to the curve, just the juga. It makes a good ground cover with a flower, and again, does very well in the shade. That's what's along that back wall. Back wall, drive and wall. As far as the drive-in, I guess it depends. That's about what they look like when they're trimmed back like they are now with all that grass. But maybe we could go down the middle of the grasses and plant, get some trees in there, some
Mhm.
additional crepe myrtles
I think that
or
would help.
something else like that. Maybe if you want something that goes straight up, or if you want something that's going to spread.
Well, I'm kind of concerned because you're really looking at the back of the building. If you're going either on Bacon's Bridge or Trolley towards 17A.
That's the porch you're seeing.
No, in the back. It seems like
Okay.
you have this Seems like if you're driving this way towards town, that view of sort of the parking in the back could help by being screened as much as you can. And, you know, I think we mentioned turning the building on Bacon's Bridge earlier. You said you tried, you can't, and I can understand that because you need a lot of queuing for Starbucks with people ordering a triple mocha latte or whatever, and it takes
Right.
3 hours to get it.
Or you go a little bit further to
So,
Sunoco.
you know, there's just gonna be a lot of cars there at certain times of the day. I think we have to look at what can you do to screen what I consider the backside of the building. And whether it's going in,
You like to get more height along that division between the.
I think it's a balance. You know, you do need some height and you do need some understory and you need the ground cover. It's not real clear from the drawings what's what and what it's really gonna look like from the different angles. And I think the architectural renderings are nice because they show the building, but I'm not getting a real good sense of what are we doing with planting and how can we use planting to help mitigate the siting.
Well, I think you could probably take some cues from the fuel center next door and look at the palette they used on the buffer. And make it look like it's one development as opposed to two different ones. I recall they had a lot more robust planting along the road. That may be what needs to happen here. I'm not a fan of that existing planting. I'm glad to go back and look at it again. But it just, from memory, it just doesn't look very good along Bacon's Bridge. And on the entry road, I know there's crepe myrtles on the side. I think there might be sweetgrass underneath it, if I recall. You may mimic that and put canopy trees at both ends or something. I don't think anyone's had any issues with the site. Minor comments on the building. I think the planting needs a little bit closer look, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I would take some photographs.
Yep.
As you're walking on those sidewalks,
Well, as
close
far
enough to
as,
be in a car.
They're in the package.
Well, let's take a look at them.
well, as far as
Because yeah,
on the architectural rendering for the gas station, they show the entire site. So I think you could probably do that for this site as well. And we could see how it's all kind of working together.
can you find any of those street views in the packet?
This is what we have here. These are the pictures that were provided by the applicant. So this would be the frontage, the large sign. It looks like live oak there along
It's a live oak,
Bacon's
azaleas
Bridge.
underneath it, and then there's what probably be fleshed out a bit. That's the
Internal to the site, looking out across towards Wild Ginger. Internal again, looking out.
Yeah,
Towards
my
the
point
road.
was I think it's more important to get photos of the public realm looking at the site, not from being on the site, looking at the public realm.
Outside in instead of inside out.
all right. So how about those?
And this looks like, it does look a little
I've
scratchy.
got a picture every 20 feet along the site there. Did the drive by all the way in
Okay,
on
so
both roads.
like, is that our view?
Even got the Harris Teeter truck,
Just now.
just for effect.
You know, when I look at that, if you could maybe stop on one, maybe back up one. When I look at that picture, I'm like, is that Somerville? And I'm like, I don't think that's Somerville. It just doesn't
Oak
feel
trees that are
like,
not Somerville, or the
it just looks like.
Pythia that's not Somerville, or the knockout roses that are not Somerville.
I think it's the understory. I mean, obviously the crepe myrtle live oak are. It's just that understory, maybe the composition. Again, I'll go out there and look at it again. But it's that composition along the front just wasn't well done 15 years ago. Yeah, that's the
Get
issue.
to the one that's kind of at the intersection, looking through the corner. Yeah.
Yeah,
You've
that one
got
starts to look
an area
like,
there with
Yep.
annuals, and
Yep.
then the knockout roses and the crepe myrtles.
yep, if the whole perimeter looked like that,
Because that's about, that's.
We
the
would
best
approve
we
it.
can find.
Yeah.
Well, there
So
are,
what can you do to fill in to make the rest of the perimeter look like
so
that?
we will go thin out the sawgrass so that we can plant something at that berm at the top of it and make that thicker. And then the next kind of section of it is a lot more of the knockout roses. So maybe we even, that ought to look pretty similar to that.
Could I suggest, the fuel center has the screen wall that goes along there. I mean, that would provide some of the screening that would be, and then the Harris Teeter Fuel Center also then supplemented the existing landscaping that's along Bacon's Bridge on top of the screen wall. So there's multiple layers and stacked vertically as well. You have the low, the mid, and then some of the canopy trees as well. So that would then lend itself to being a cohesive front there along the whole thing. It would provide some of the screening for that queue that's wrapping around the building. Just a suggestion, but it's something that you guys asked of the neighbor next door.
Yep.
It would make sense to carry
Can
that
you go back to
across.
the landscape plan for just a second there,
Mhm.
Tim?
Which, find it, sorry.
Back up one more that showed the whole site. All right. Yeah, so everything out there is shown on this drawing. Everything that's there now. This is no new landscaping planted. So what you can see is that beyond the sign or the, let's just call it the property line, there's nothing on the fuel station site but 3 crepe myrtles and 1 oak. So surely you would have required some additional landscaping there. We,
They had
on
additional,
the sign over,
they had additional landscaping.
right.
Yeah.
Therefore you would, because there's nothing there now. The
Right.
context of Tim's question is that presumes that that was just as landscaped on the left side of that existing lot as the right side. And it's not. There's nothing, the 3 crepe myrtles and 1 oak. So just to clarify, we're not, they started with 0 other than some canopy stuff. And so, you know, clean sheet of paper. If you want all the understory stuff, shrubs and whatnot taken out and something new put in, then
Well, I don't think we want to give specific direction of take this, add that. I think the general comment, and I think Tim's comment is a good one, is that if you look at, and I know it may be 2 ownerships or 2 leaseholds or whatever, but as one parcel visually, I think that's a good concept. And to look at what Harris Teeter has proposed and look at what they're doing and how
And
can you extend that as a reasonable thing to come back with. I don't think we had a lot of building comments. And I'm not saying, you know, this drawing is a little hard to read, especially at the scale. I'm not saying you don't have it already, but it'll be nice to have either a colored plan or some perspectives or some Photoshop photos to give a better sense of, you know, what is this thing really going to look like? Because I don't think we should just be plunking down buildings on parking lots. And we've got,
I'm sorry if that's what you think we've done.
well, it's hard to tell from the drawing. I mean, there's no color. You can't tell what anything is.
I'm sorry, I thought as architects could see in color even when it's black and white.
Yeah, I don't think we want to get into that. People present colored drawings all the time to sell. You did color renderings of the building.
Certainly do at the final, and we'll have it at the final. We've got coordination to do with that.
All right, anything else?
I'd like to get clarification on whether the entrance off of Bacon's Bridge Road has to be ADA accessible, because I don't see that anywhere in any ordinance within the 3 counties that public roads have to be internal to the site. It's ADA accessible to both doors.
Yeah, as far as I know, the state does not, or counties do not legislate ADA. ADA is a federal act that's interpreted by anybody who feels like they're being discriminated against. And you have to, all of us in the design profession have to think about reasonable scenarios where somebody is mobility impaired, who wants to go to a public accommodation and be treated fairly. And that's not necessarily a wheelchair. It could be a broken leg. It could be asthma that prevents you from walking an extra 100 yards. It could be anything. So you have to put yourself, where is that person with a mobility impairment? And do they have to walk twice as far to get into the building as somebody who's not mobility impaired? And unless there's a physical constraint of topography or otherwise that prevents you from providing a 1 in 20 pathway, you should provide it. And you don't have to, it's not enforceable, but somebody could come around and sue you or your owner if they feel they're being discriminated against.
Don't think that we're discriminating against anyone since we have the required 1 parking space span accessible on the site.
Yeah, it's
Closest
it's
to-
pedestrian. So if somebody's not in a car and they're walking on Bacon's Bridge or Trolley and they want to go to your store, how do they get there?
Show me how they get to anything in the shopping center off the street.
Well, you're building a new building.
Pardon?
The bar gets raised every time a new building goes in. And just because an
It's not
existing,
topographically, it's not possible.
then you're,
6-inch steps there. So
Okay.
we're dropping
so if you can
3.5.
make a case that it's not physically possible, then that should protect your owner from being sued.
All right, so do I make that to you or do I make it to the planning department or the?
Well, I would like to say that, ooh, that's loud. I don't like the connection point location. I think it should be at the corner where the existing sidewalk is and follow the proposed curb line around the whole outside edge of the site and not dump in the 2 driveway aisles.
Tell me, so come all the way along the entrance
Yeah.
to the dumpsters?
Where the existing sidewalk is and have it go all the way around and not across, down the hill and across 2 driveways. That's what I would prefer. I don't know that that's a requirement, but and I would prefer that. That's what I would like to see, but
Okay.
that would impact some of the landscaping that you guys just
Yeah.
discussed.
Take out 5 feet of it.
So Elliot,
on our side.
specifically, what's your question? Your question is,
Well, it was-
ADA.
we were asked to make a connection. Okay. The
Okay.
best location for a single connection into that new development, both ones raised and started over, is on the far left corner where there's no grade change. But it puts you in the middle of nowhere. It puts you at the far end of the gas station
right,
that doesn't serve someone coming in, because someone in a wheelchair is not going to get gas. Might be going for cigarettes, but
Yeah, there's no pedestrian connectivity at all in this site.
to
I mean,
the,
you're just walking through a parking lot to the grocery store.
so
or-
do you,
there's also no housing anywhere close to this site.
there's
Someone's walking from.
there's Solid Branch Canal right there, right? I see a lot of people actually walking. I don't say a lot. I've seen people walking from outside this development, walking into this development. So I think all we can say right now is if
There's something on that other side that for the buildings on the, across the entrance that already makes it, this whole development ADA accessible. I have to look into that.
yeah, I think all we can say right now is study it. I don't think any of us are saying it's got to be right there and you got to put in ramps or whatever. I mean, I like Hart's idea. And typically we would bring it down the kind of down the entry road there. Maybe it doesn't need to go all the way to the dumpsters. It can cross before it and get to the front door of Starbucks instead of, because you
Still
could,
walking across 2 lanes of drive-through traffic.
yeah, but it's stopped.
Well,
You've got a crosswalk.
no, it's leaving, and there's a difference.
Well, I think all we can say is, I think it can be studied, and I know you'll study it. You have. I don't think it has to be exactly where it is. And just take a look at it and we'll talk about it again. Now, if it's technically has to be ADA accessible, that's really a question for whoever interprets ADA at staff level. I don't think we can answer the technical aspect of that. That's not our duty. We can just maybe guide the location or something. But all right.
All right, what else?
Anyone from staff want to address ADA issues? Certainly.
So the building code does require access, accessible access from the building site or building facilities to the public way. So that has to be accessible. Now, whether you go the way that you have or another way, it's up to you, but there does have to be an accessible access from the building, the entrance to the public way. And that's more of a fire related thing. So if someone's in there and there's fire to the building, they have to be able to get to the public way to get out of it.
All right, thank you. All right, entertain a motion. They're asking for preliminary approval.
I would make the motion for preliminary approval with comments considered and further study on landscaping, access, and the minor architectural codes.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All vote in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Next is 143 Berkeley Circle. Please come up and be sure to state your role in the project, please.
So the third item under old business is a request for preliminary approval for a proposed 11,900 square foot multi-tenant retail building. The property is zoned GB general business. This is currently undeveloped property. This was last before the board for conceptual review in July of 2021. Following your staff's comments, the proposed outdoor covered patio area encroaches on the tree protection area. These trees will be greatly impacted by the construction. The applicant should provide a written mitigation plan from a certified arborist to address the preservation of these trees. No greater than 20% encroachment into the tree protection area should be considered. The tree protection area should be measured from the 26-inch tree and 1 foot for each caliper inch of tree protection. The photometric plan does not provide the required foot candle reading information. I'm not sure if it actually meets the requirements. Staff would recommend looking at better pedestrian connectivity between the Wasabi parcel and this parcel. There's a significant grade change between the sites requiring the use of retaining walls. The applicant will be required to connect the proposed sidewalk on Berkeley Circle to the existing sidewalk that ends on the Wasabi property. Stormwater detention is required and is not currently shown anywhere on the property. Not all of the proposed planting materials meet the planting minimum size requirement of section 8.7.1. And as far as the architecture goes, it's generally consistent with the design guidelines. All the architectural drawings are, though, just a note, labeled for a shell building in Goose Creek, and that should be revised. Sorry, I had to point that out.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Carper with Carper Civil Consulting. Have Tim Hazelbaker, the architect, with me. As Tim mentioned, we came here for conceptual. I think we've developed the plan further from that meeting, addressing the landscaping, the connectivity. We did put a sidewalk along Berkeley Circle. I think probably did a poor job of making it more pronounced, but I think we did label it on there. Stormwater, we're hoping to address with biocells. There's a existing drainage ditch running along the western parking lot between the two properties. And then there's also the natural area along Old Light Road that we're, right now, the landscaping shows some grasses and in that area. We've added impervious parking, or I'm sorry, pervious parking at the rear of the building, and the outdoor seating area, of course, is I guess been embellished in the architecture, and I'll let Tim talk about that.
If I could make a suggestion,
Yes,
could
sir.
you speak about context first? Kind of where it is. I know you had some site photos in there. Could you kind of zero us in on that first? Talk about context, how this relates to the building. I mean, the existing surroundings, how it relates site-wise and building-wise.
Sure.
That'll kind of help paint the picture, and then it'll be easier to dial in.
I can't figure out where this building is in relation to Wasabi. I know, but I don't see the building,
Yeah.
and that's why I can't picture it.
Yeah, Tim, if you go back to the photos.
Ooh, you're close.
Missing again.
Where's that? Come on back. You had it there. Showed the Wasabi building, the parking lot. Right there, right there. Okay.
This is the real landmark in Bunch Creek.
It is now.
Well, that's down Old Light Road,
Where is that?
Where's the-
right by Sticky Fingers.
Where's the butt cake and ribs?
It would be down. That's where I can't get
It's
related
south,
here.
it's on the southeast.
Yeah,
opposite side of the
southeast.
road.
Okay.
It's down Old Light Road. Old Light Road now intersects, I think, with Main Street,
That's correct.
right at where Sticky Fingers used to be, and it's now the Oriental plus the Greek restaurant.
And the psychic read was right across the street. Is that right?
Did not see it.
Right.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
So, and Tim, if you flip to the photographs, I kind of put I tried to on the right-hand side of that sheet, a historical timeline of kind of how this property has been developed. The top one back in 2007, I think is pre-Wasabi, when Berkeley Circle still tied back into Berkeley Circle. And then the next photo, 2014, you can see the Wasabi has been constructed. At the time, this had a shop and I'm assuming a residential structure located on it. When the plans for the Old Light Road were developed, I think condemnation started going through, and Mr. Tang, of course, needed to keep traffic flowing to his restaurant. So he was able to work with the town and constructed a temporary access road on the outside of the parking lot, and that's kind of the state where it is now. Yes, sir. Sure. So we've the building placement, I guess, provides some continuity between this site and the Wasabi site. The Wasabi site was obviously done when Berkeley Circle passed in front of it, but this placement allows for the parcels to enjoy shared parking and connectivity to Old Light Road. The properties to the left are zoned industrial, aside from a contractor nail outlet. There isn't a whole lot going on that side of the road.
And briefly, there was a comment about the grade change and sidewalks and.
Yes, sir. So the parking, there's about 3 feet of fall from the parking lot, the existing Wasabi parking lot, down to the temporary road that currently traverses the site. And what we've proposed is a retaining wall along that edge down to what will be the main drainage path, and the driveways will slope down to tie back in. We've provided connectivity on to both sidewalks along the one on Old Light Road and the one on Berkeley Circle. It's difficult to see on this plan, but there's a roadside ditch on Berkeley Circle that goes up towards the north at Wasabi, and then we've installed some inlets and drain pipe and put a sidewalk along where that landscaping is shown on Berkeley Circle.
Just below the label Old Light Road. Correct.
Well, I'm speaking on the Berkeley Circle side.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, right there.
Where's your sidewalk there? Or you don't have one there?
We do have one there. I don't know that it shows up very well on that. But it ties in at the island opposite the dumpsters.
Okay.
I'm looking at the parking ratios you got on your table on C201.
Yes, sir.
They don't match the UDO.
We provide more parking than
UDO calls for restaurants. I think it's one seat per one parking spot per 4 seats and one per every 2 employees, not 3 per 1,000.
We don't use the seats anymore.
You don't?
No.
Okay,
No,
so
that
is
was
it
the
3,
old,
is it 3 per 1,000 then?
Yeah.
Okay, and retail is 5 per 1,000. Because I just looked at that one. Correct? Or not, Tim?
Yeah, it don't need to meet a minimum parking requirement. Plus the maximums were removed. So I think that the parking, I went through that. Give me a second here.
Well, you got retail at 2 per 1,000, but it's really 5 per 1,000. So you may not be over parked. You may be under parked.
It's hard to read this here.
You got 12,000 square feet, right?
yes.
So that would be what, 60 parking spots
Yeah,
allowed if it's all retail.
it's
So
there's a restaurant.
I don't think you have all retail. You don't have 60 spots out.
Right, we have I think 62.
How many?
62.
Okay, so you're right there. Okay.
Comments on site? Come back to it.
I'm curious about water because for A2 occupancy, you're going to need that space sprinkled, fire sprinklers.
No, sir.
Yes, anything over 100 occupants, A2 has to be fire sprinkled. You're over that occupancy by quite a bit. That means you're going to have a 6-inch line, a fire hydrant accessible to the building within what, 300 feet or whatever, 150 feet from the FDC. So you need to show all those requirements on your site plan, utility plan.
Yeah, as I understand it right now from the mechanical, the building is not going to be sprinkler. If it needs to be, then yes, we will.
It's going to have to be if you're going to have more than 100 occupants and A2 occupancy. That's just building code. And normally, if a retail space is more than 1,500 square feet, you need 2 restrooms. And you're a little over 1,500 square feet each, so that's going to be real close. But our code official will check you real close, so you might ought to investigate that a little bit.
Is there a question about parking here? I understand.
Well, that's about the building. It has nothing to do with
Yeah,
parking.
I'll let Tim, you want to come up and speak about the.
Well, the decision for sprinkling can still yet be made, as we understand it. As the retail spaces are developed. but they're 1,250 square feet, aren't they, the spaces? They're not 1,500.
um, 22 by 70, so that ain't 1,200. 20 by 60 is 1,200.
Yeah,
So you're a little over 1,500 square feet
that's right. I get it.
per unit. 20
Yeah.
by 60 by 70, 15 floors. So that will get you the 2 restrooms. This rule is done generally after your occupancy, fix your council occupancy. Sprinklers, that's the answer.
Well, the other way that we calculate it is if you have one restroom is required, then you can have the family restroom as the acceptable bathroom.
As the second restroom. Put that down, but that's still 2 restrooms, not 1. That's a family.
Yeah.
And a unisex.
That's true. They don't have to be male and female.
Unisex and.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's still 2, not 1.
Well, can we go by the realtor's leasable area and to the face of the wall, and do we get under 1,500 square feet that way?
It's, I mean, it's gonna be gross square footage, that's what it costs for gross square footage. That's gonna be outside face of wall.
Yeah.
I think just, yes, please.
Come on.
Sit in the front row.
So, the occupant load is calculated for business at 150 per 150 square feet per person. This is 1,540, so you got about 11 people. Occupant load.
Below 15.
We can have 1 unisex bathroom, and that's sufficient.
That's what I was trying to explain.
But the fire sprinkler issue doesn't go
They can achieve no fire sprinkler if firewall.
well, not with the restaurant, with an occupancy load over.
Oh,
So in any event, they're gonna need a 2-hour wall separating the restaurant from the retail. That'll have to be a 2-hour.
That would have to be a building separation.
Yeah.
you can do a building separation, at 4,200 square feet. It still depends on the occupant load, depending on how they configure your eating space and your kitchen. I mean, with the empty floor plan like this, we can't really calculate that yet, so it might not be required. The sprinklers.
Well, if it's not, then we'll-
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
And that many square feet, you have way over. They've already said they've got 2 or 250. So that's sprinklers. Then you also got to look at wherever the fire hydrant is in relation to the building now, we have sprinklers or not. Sprinklers or the fire hydrant. That closer, you have to FTC. The fire sprinkler. Something just need to look at.
Thank you.
So they're gonna have to get the permit.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's start.
You want to talk about the building?
And just to go back, I mean, it is our intent to, I mean, if fire line is required, we are going to
Yeah, I think
incorporate that on the utility plan.
work that out with staff. and
Sure.
We'll guide you. Yeah, if you would, good to see you again. You would just kind of tell us your inspiration for the building and what you're planning
We
here.
actually had some realtor input, and what's hot is gray supposedly, and we tried that and we said, no, thank you. Fan really likes the color of the brick that I had previously chosen. It has a very warm siding on, depending on the type of restaurant that does land there. He suggested perhaps a Mexican theme, so we kind of went with that. But of course, it could mean anywhere. But it's warm, friendly, and the idea is to break up the facade. I think in our earlier our very first presentation was straight across parapet, and everybody kind of rejected that. So we broke it up several different times, and this is the best, cleanest way to break up, because you have different widths. So there's no center to this. There's no middle shops. And also because late in the game, we added the outdoor seating, it really gave quite an anchor theme to the whole thing, where it started looking like a small village. And going back to what Jeff was saying, the important thing in the whole site was relating to the Wasabi restaurant, where you have a mirror image of two establishments. The theme of this building should not be pointing towards one street or another, because when they're that close to both streets, they're losing half of their invitation to customers. So this puts them right in the middle. It gives a complex or a compound kind of a feeling to the whole two sites, the Wasabi and this. And I think it works very well. I can't myself imagine having to twist it for any other arbitrary reason other than trying to solve the grade change. The one thing we did do is make sure that the sidewalk was separated from the building so that there's room for planting. Many developments put the sidewalk right up against the building. We've held it away, and we have chosen to have the base wall come up rather than the glazing go all the way down. It gives a little bit of a more secure feeling for pedestrians coming and going. They're not right at a storefront. We like the sconces that we've put on there. They're not real. We have chosen some types of sconces that we think will work very well, but that's about how they look, and that's about the size. We have several manufacturers that produce a LED sconce like that. And then we've used brickwork, and we've tried to balance between the corbelling of where that line goes through to show a storefront, and then the room left over for the signage. And we've tried to keep as much meat as we can towards signage. When we develop a signage plan, they will all have a unified look by some standard that is produced by the building management. And so that's about it. The parapets are foam type of parapets. The one in the middle is a stainless steel tin pan kind of thing, I guess is the way I describe it. Cleaner, sharper lines. But the rounded ones are foam buildups. And I guess that's it. That's it.
I can't recall, do you have an enlargement of the outdoor dining area or any?
Yeah.
Got it. There it is.
So on the left is that big ugly tree, pruned up, carefully managed by the arborist and allowed to live, which would create a wonderful courtyard area there. So we really hope that we can save the tree, save the space for the outdoor dining. And then we've been talking about garage door closures for cold winter days. And we still have to kind of design those in. Right now, even when I show the plan, I show the tables half in and half out of the wall, which gives people a feeling like they're cheating the sunshine a little bit. You know, they can either pull in and then pull out. And of course, the roof can be a roof. It doesn't have to be that open pergola look. We're leaning, certainly if you have garage doors, then you would have want a real door, a real roof. So that's kind of where I think there's leaning is to have an enclosed space that that offers year-round type of. Seating.
How many?
I know. Well, everybody's cheating with these garage door things nowadays, you know, and you have to.
How many people do you think would be outside?
If you can go to the plan, you can almost count tables.
Doesn't have to be exact, just. The reason I'm asking is for inside plus,
11 times 5, 55,
and then how many inside?
55.
Okay, so 100 something,
Yeah,
110.
yeah.
So is that,
You got about 8 tables.
Yeah.
so that's
You
big.
got 6 at the table, 48.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell, you can't tell. Obviously.
But that's-
Maybe 6 at the table.
Yeah, they're,
Yeah, it's.
So do we feel like the parking provided meets the need? 'Cause I know the
well,
wasabi now is
yeah,
over.
that's true, but perhaps you could make the case that on a sunny day, they're not all indoors.
I know the existing restaurant has definitely parking shortages, it seems, because there's always people parked in the street. So I just want to make sure we're not making the problem worse.
Part, I might just say also, it's goes against my point a little bit, but part of this outdoor thing is that attachment to the building, which is for to-go orders, things like that, and serving inside and out as a vestibule, so you don't get windage going in and out of the building. So we tried to cover with that vestibule, make it a truly outdoor and not just people wandering outside of a front door of a, you know, like on a sidewalk venue. Tried to make it truly an outdoor venue where you'd have wait staff.
Okay, well, I think we're ready to discuss an adjourn. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, in the early
Tim,
design.
could you go to the back of the building, please?
Yeah, there's there. So what we've done is just simply created a 6-foot masonry wall screen, open for a doorway, which is just airspace for the air handling or for the condensing units. That there's not air handlers there, it's condensing units. And so it's just literally to provide visual blocking, although it seems like we're crowding the issue a little bit, the overkill. But that's the best way to do it.
I don't see this blocking screen in the back of the building.
Okay, if you just look at the shadow pattern there.
Let me get to a.
Yeah, there, that's a good one right there. Right there. It's those right
Oh,
there.
you're gonna put them on the ground.
Yeah,
That's even better.
yeah.
So you can see it on the floor plan here. You got the walls here with the units.
So the electrical panel and the condensing unit are behind that screen for each unit.
You use metal panels.
So masonry, matching the top. What we've tried to do is have the tan brick on the front and a warm, what I call a smooth faced block on the back. So it has a little dressier look than CMU, and use that for the screening.
Right.
I remember the July meeting somewhat. And I think the concern I had was how visible is back the building? Because the front's great. Looks at wasabi, it's great. Sides look great. The back is like, you know, a lot of buildings you go to, you can't see the back because the site is oriented. So it doesn't matter what the back looks like because you can never see it. But in this site, I looked at some of those site photos and I'm like, can you really see that as you're driving along it?
Well, there's quite a forest on that corner where the.
Do you have any like
outdoor
photos?
venue is right
Do you have any
now.
like photo or site plan that would show what can you really see?
Well, Sheep Island Road would be the only view corridor you would have the back road. 'Cause
Yeah,
The other road, Old Light Road, you're not gonna see it with all the. 'cause it's
Yeah,
not-
yeah.
right. So let's look at Sheep Island.
So Sheep Island Road is really where your concern would be and you know. The Middleton property behind it, looks like they would kind of block your view too.
Yeah, there's trees everywhere right now.
If you flip to the landscape plan. So, yeah, coming, heading north, obviously the dumpster enclosures are CMU and then we've provided, a lot of landscaping. On that corner.
It's gonna block too, even if your landscape.
Sure.
It's not gonna see a lot.
Yeah, I guess my point is that we mentioned that at the last meeting
About, yeah, the bunk cakes.
about the back of the building.
Right.
And then you come back the second time, and I feel like I have the same question as I had 6 months ago.
And what is that building to the south?
It's a dental office. I feel like at the
You know, I feel like I was-
July meeting, we were talking about providing a screen wall like the bunk cake factory has. And so I think that's what Tim tried to address that.
So, but my question is, when you're driving on Sheep Island Road, can you see the back of the building? Because the back of the building is not designed as if it were to be seen. It's designed like a typical strip shopping mall where you can't see the back. Whereas this one, I'm still not convinced that the back of the building faces a public.
Well, that's my Somerville conundrum. Every building can have 4 sides. They can't have all 4 entrances. There is a back to every building. And I don't know how to address it to Somerville. I really don't, because it is such a contrary way to build a building where you can have a low slope roof draining to a gutter in the back and to provide a parapet clear across to have it.
No, I agree with that. I'm thinking you do something with the site to validate when you're on Sheep Island Road, to see what you can really see.
I'm
And
sorry,
you-
I missed that. What on Sheep Island Road?
If you're driving on Sheep Island Road from Main Street.
Yeah.
Can you see the back of the building? I mean, that's just a,
I've got a view of that. If
Well,
you
let's
can
take a
just
look at
kind of, can you bring up view of?
I don't think you're gonna see it, right?
It's a little fast. Okay, right there.
right there. So that's what I'm hoping we don't see. I'm hoping there's enough in the foreground to block that,
Yeah, you won't.
But there is stuff there in the foreground. And
but it's not shown. I mean, you say that, but I'm like, show me. Show me a picture that shows you can't see the back of the building. And again,
Yeah, we
It'll
can
show
certainly render that.
it'll show the dumpster and the landscaping from that perspective. I think
I think that's what we need.
convey, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, I thought it was strictly an architectural, structural.
No,
but,
I think you have what you have. And if you can block that view, then you're good.
Okay.
If you can't block the view, you need to make sure you can't see that.
I share Greg's concern that I feel like you are gonna see the back of the building. I don't mind seeing the building, but I don't want it to look like the back of the building, not like that. And we have done, the most recent one that comes to mind was on Maple Street. It was kind of a similar building. It was next to the flex space. There's a gas station, the 78 and Maple Street gas station. There was an existing flex space building and there was one in front of it. And it is a 4-sided building that looks good from all 4 sides. I think that was successful. I think this is going to be visible, but show us that it's not. You know, if it's screened, okay. I'm not convinced that it will be. And if it's not, then something's got to happen along that back to make it look appealing. It can still look like the back of a building, but it can be a little bit more appealing than it is. Something to think about. Okay. Yeah. Any other comments?
Sure. I agree with both of you on that. The outdoor seating, so it is going to have a roof and be able to be enclosed?
Yeah, I think that's the full intention is that we started with the pergola aspect of it.
Oh,
You're right. I think so. Hold on. That's what you're saying. I'm gonna have knee surgery next Thursday.
you can sit down and take that mic with you. No, really.
Drop the mic.
You can take it off, and if you need to sit, you
Yeah,
can.
that's what I'm saying.
It just, I'm gonna have surgery on Thursday for a total knee replacement.
Nice. I just don't want to rush that.
So the idea is that, where was I?
We were talking about the outdoor seating.
Oh, yeah.
Closing it.
That we're going to lean towards a roof
Okay.
and the garage door aspect. But the beginning of the pergola was just to get approval from the board
Sure.
for the space area.
I think having outdoor seating is great. I'm not going to beat the code drum, but you'll have to be really careful there. Because outdoor seating that has walls and a roof and can be enclosed no longer becomes outdoor seating, and it could count against you on the sprinkler system. It will count against you on your bathrooms.
All right.
Just something to think about. But I agree on the back. I think this probably needs to just be addressed more like a four-sided building. So the outdoor seating encroaches on the ability to meet the requirements. Yeah, is that what I read?
No.
I'm sorry, what's,
Does the proximity and the size of the outdoor seating affect the tree requirements? Is that what you were saying?
no, so let me,
Tree right next to it.
Okay,
See how it encroaches on the canopy.
so they have tree protection
all right.
here that wraps around, and about 60% of that area is encroached upon by the patio area.
Okay.
We've allowed encroachments like that within that, what is supposed to be a tree protection area, as long as there is a mitigation plan in place, presented by a certified arborist that will show that they are, doing their best to make sure that that tree that they're trying to preserve will be preserved. It doesn't make sense to try to preserve a tree, impact over 60% of its critical root zone area, and then just have it die 2 years later.
Sure.
So to do that, our arborist looking at the plan suggested that, and as I said, we've used that on other locations. Just a written plan on how they're going to deal with it.
Can we go to the side facing the restaurant, the front?
The elevation here,
Yeah, the overall rendering. Is this building symmetrical with the exception of the outdoor area?
No,
Okay,
no.
I'm not saying it had to be, I just asked. It seems to.
There's no articulation, is what you're getting at.
I'm just saying
It's like a little bit of a brick.
if you're head on, if it's close, how close do you get before it's like, we're a foot off from center, or symmetry, but I'm just asking. I don't,
Is there an elevation?
is there a direct elevation?
There's elevations.
Okay,
I think that would show
okay.
what you're talking about.
Excuse me.
let me find it.
Okay. All right.
Well, the outdoor dining is not to compete with the rest of the shops. It's meant to look like an attractive outdoor space.
Oh, no, I wasn't really talking about that. I was just asking if the building was symmetrical. I couldn't tell in the perspective. You could tell in the elevation that it's not. And I mean, the canopies are different and the storefront is wider and all that. So although it's a little different. My really only question then is the signage is just going to go on the wall. There's no sign panels necessarily.
No, we don't want panels. We want backlit lettering.
Well, they're going on brick though, is what I'm saying. Normally you put an ephes panel there,
Or
because you
something.
change tenants a lot. And you're putting holes in brick, that's
Yeah.
hard to patch. You put holes in ephes, that's easy to patch. And the tenants come and go, frequently. You don't keep the same tenants
Yeah.
there.
Well, and I'm not
10 years.
overly concerned with the material necessarily as I am with defining an area for the
sign ban.
signs. Yeah.
Well, you have to look at another view that shows that area for signage. There, I think that's there. Right there. There's everybody gets the same horizon line.
I tried that on Valentine's Day.
Didn't work, did it?
No,
No.
I wanted a real gift.
No, you should.
This will kick the can.
I agree though, those illuminated like signage, really nice, but a lot of times they'll stick
The bar.
a bar
Yeah,
behind
No,
it.
I've seen that too, and it looks tacky, it looks.
I think we need to. I like this better.
Yeah. Yeah. They're joined. Yeah, no, that's the idea. Yeah. We want the building approved.
Well,
That's true. They are coming back to signage.
it does say be the gift. It's you. So
Yeah.
anyway, is the material on the sign panel, I'm gonna say sign panel, but it's the wall in between the brick. Is that different? Is that metal? Where it says the total.
Oh, no,
200
that's soldier force.
Horizontal band. Or-
This?
It's vertical brick.
Well, look at the rendering again. I mean, the outside's really nice. I think.
I mean, I'm using traditional brick techniques to do that.
Okay.
That is very nice.
Yeah, that's fine. Just when you come back for final, just bring the brick sample because we're saying tan, but it's rendered yellow.
Pardon?
We're saying tan, but it's rendered yellow, and there's a pretty fine line. So just bring,
yes.
when you bring the brick,
Yeah.
we'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments? Oh, we're asking for preliminary approval. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion with the comments that we've talked about. You've got to show us that you can't see the back. We've got to screen it with trees or something so we can't see the back. Otherwise, it's much better than I would expect to see in a development like this. It's really a good job. It's a really nice building.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of nice things with the detail. And I think it's going to be a great facility when it's done. Thank you.
All righty, is there a second? All those any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All righty. Thank
Sorry
you.
for the floor show.
Well, good luck. Good luck with the surgery.
No, we're not sympathetic people here.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Worry about that.
5-minute break.
So if you guys are all back in presence, we can reconvene and get going. So the first item under new business is a request for conceptual review of a proposed new Tommy's Car Wash on Old Trolley Road. Property is zoned UCMX Urban Corridor Mixed Use. This is just north of 1515 Old Trolley Road, which is the CVS. There next to the shopping center with Dairy Queen, et cetera. I know that's a landmark some of you guys know. Based on initial review, the following are staff comments. Being a conceptual review, there is still a landscape plan, lighting plan, and signage plan outstanding. Has not been submitted at this time. The property is zoned UCMX, as I pointed out, which allows for drive-throughs as a conditional use. Section 3.4.8A addresses those conditions, and the conditions include that the drive-through window may not face the primary street. We consider the tunnel entrance and exit the drive-through window. So this can be addressed with use of a screen wall. This was brought up at our technical review committee last week, and they have submitted a set of plans that addresses this. So once I get through staff comments, I'll switch over to that for going over the site conversation. In addition, no parking can be in front of the building. So there's a couple of spaces that are going to have to be tweaked, and the dumpster should be moved off of the frontage. Sidewalks must be a minimum of 5 feet wide. The width of the escape lane should be no less than 10 feet wide. And there are at least 28 stacking spaces from the tunnel entrance entirely located on the applicant's property. Generally, the design of the building is consistent with the design guidelines. Materials include brick and block metal panels, standard aluminum storefront windows, and fiber cement panels. Engineering had a couple of comments. Because of the drainage issues of the adjacent CVS and neighborhood, the drainage plan will need to show that all stormwater impacts are mitigated. Drainage ditches will need to be cleaned out. All remaining wetlands must be shown on the plan, and all required 25-foot buffers must be shown on the plan as well. So.
All right, and you probably heard me earlier. It's give us some context first.
Sure.
But also state your name and your role in the project.
Sure.
If you could, but the floor is yours.
Yeah, so hi everyone, thanks for everyone's time. My name is Paul Waller. I'm with Bowman Consulting Group, engineering firm. We're working for Olympus Pines on this project. Ed Gilmore here is with Olympus Pines. They are a franchisee for Tommy's Car Wash. They're owner developer, and then will also be the operator of this facility.
Is the architect here?
The architect is not here. No, sir. So site location, this is Old Trolley Road, right next to the Publix. The building shown in this site plan south of the proposed site is the CVS, existing CVS. Access for the site, there will be no new driveway encroachments. We will be tying into an existing driveway on Old Trolley Road. There is a cross access or an access easement over that area that serves the CVS and will serve this property. As far as the building goes, it's a about 4,500 square foot single lane car wash, single tunnel car wash. There are three pay lanes or pay kiosks as you enter the car wash. So that's reflected here on the site plan for adequate stacking. There is an escape lane, so if anybody goes through the pay kiosk and they have an issue with the car or need to exit, they can use that escape lane to exit before going in the tunnel. As far as parking and around the site, there are 16 vacuum stalls just north of the building shown there, and then there are 5 regular parking spaces. Employees, and then there's also 1 ADA spot that's in front of the door into the building. As Tim mentioned earlier, we got some feedback in TRC and incorporated those in this plan. So one of the big items was the tunnel and it being classified as a drive-through window. And so we needed to screen for that. And we're providing a 4-foot high brick screen wall along the frontage. It spans 10 feet past each edge of the building. So it's the full width of the building plus 10 feet on each side. As far as the parking comment that came up in TRC, no parking in front of the structure. So we did relocate the parking, kind of shifted some of the parking north. on the north side of the drive, further back of the site. And then we relocated the dumpster to be at the end of that drive aisle. A couple of the other TRC comments were engineering related. Stormwater out here is something that we will certainly look into. We're thinking an above ground stormwater management area right now, probably a wet pond. And then there's the CVS existing site sheet flows onto this site. And so we will be capturing that and routing that back to the existing ponds that are on the rear of the site. This site is wooded. We are looking to develop approximately like 1.5 acres as a total, I think 3.8 acre site. So we are leaving the back portion, and this property actually encompasses the area behind the CVS too. So all of that area will remain untouched. And it's heavily wooded right now. So we do have a plan that kind of shows a conceptual tree save at this point. We will have a landscape architect coming on board for this project and really starting to dive into our existing tree save and then what kind of proposed improvements we can have around the site.
Was the rear of highland or wetland?
There is wetland on this property. It is an isolated wetland.
But I mean, between your development and I guess to the east, is that wetland or woodland or highland?
It's wetland.
So you can't push it back any further, correct?
The site?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
You cannot push back any further.
Yeah, so we are, our environmental scientist is working on the core jurisdictional determination right now. We're waiting to get that feedback from the Corps. And then at that point, we'll be able to see what kind of impacts we can have to the wetland that's on site. I think from a site standpoint, utilities will be tying into some existing infrastructure south of the site. There's a water line and a sewer line. So we will have to have a little bit of a longer service line. That's probably not for you guys to look at. But yeah, we're happy to present this project and looking forward to getting some feedback from you all and open to some suggestions for the site. Tim, do you have the elevations?
While he's looking for that, has the town arborist walked the site?
So that's what, once we get we have our arborist on board who provided the tree survey. And once we get through this, we wanted to come to this conceptual review to get feedback from you all. And then we were going to engage with the town arborist to start that process.
Sounds like a good approach.
It's a lot of site maps here.
It's a lot of information. Sorry. This is really engineering, sorry. All right, I think there's one that's color. Yeah, there we go. And if Tim, I think if you zoom in, it'll show up a little better. But yeah, so the main materials for the site, and Ed can speak to this a lot more. He builds these all the time. So main materials are block. There's a block base, and then there's a brick component. There is a metal metal span on the, I would say, the 3/4 up of the building, and then there is some fiber cement board on the structure. It's the Nichiha paneling system. It's kind of on one of the to the right of the front elevation.
What about this relates it to Somerville? Was Somerville studied to inform how the building would look, how it was designed? Was the existing shopping center studied for context? Did any of that occur to help get you where you are today?
we're really going to start looking into that and getting the correct materials, brick color, really making sure that we're matching the surrounding area. We've got the CVS is brick, and then there are two medical office buildings across Old Trolley Road that are also brick that I think are some good materials that we can match on site. So yes, we plan to really to team up with the architect to kind of hone in on this material and make it more Somerville.
And who is the architect?
Ed, do you-
Progressive. They're out of Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the architect it's certainly better than some of the it's a lot better than the other car washes we've seen. So I think it's a good start, but I agree with Chris. We got to figure out, we don't want it to go on a trip to Michigan and see the exact same. We want it, customized for this one. The canopy in front is like, all right, it might be fun, but it might be too much. So I think we need to get a better sense of what is that thing. It looks like it's curving, which might be fun. It also might be a bit much. So I would think that would be an important, some enlargements of that to really understand what that is and what is its purpose. In that location, you want everybody to know it's a car wash, but at some point you don't want it to, sort of scream out too much. But I think we just have to take a look at what the actual materials are. But I like the massing and how it's broken up and a lot of different materials. When I looked at the site plan, it looked like none of the existing trees are going to stay between your site and the CVS. And it looks like I'm just worried that whole line is going to be wide open. And again, it's a good looking building, which is great. I'm not trying to hide the building in this case. I'm trying to, hide the cars that are queued up. And what can you do? Is it a 25-foot buffer there, Tim?
For the wetlands, yes,
And,
on the back.
no, I was talking about between the CVS and the building.
No, it's same zoning, so it's a minimum 5 foot.
5. So you can't really do that much in 5 feet to screen in.
and there is a decent separation between the pay lanes and then the CVS area. The problem with trying to save trees in that area is we have to make drainage improvements. CVS has a flume kind of into an open area. We're going to have to provide a dish that creates positive flow for that. So it's not causing any issues on the CVS site or the site we're working on.
Site's kind of low.
So that means no screening between on that edge.
Existing screen. We can't say.
No, I mean,
existing.
can you put new plants?
Yeah, I think that's a great area for some proposed plantings.
And can you push the site on plan north? So there's more of a buffer.
We're right on the 8-foot buffer on the north side of the site.
And the parking's as tight as you can make it. I can't read that dimension on the screen.
It's pretty tight.
It's at 60 feet.
Has this
Which-
property been subdivided and that property line's already set, or can that property line go up? And you provide more screening between there and the CVS.
I think one thing we can do with the CVS, if it's approved, first of all, thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. One thing if we can do is we could create stone beds and plant some trees in those every, 10 foot or something like that to provide some screen. So therefore the drainage that does run off of the CVS parking lot can drain right through without messing with the roots of the trees and all that. We have the arborist, landscape architect look at that. To address one of your first comments we 100% want this to match Somerville. That's one of the whole purposes of coming to this meeting. So my partner and I, Trevor, drove down here today and drove to this site, drove at the other buildings, right? You have 2 buildings across the street, you see this, so all 3 different bricks. So we would like to bring the bricks as a sample board to one of our meetings and say, what do you guys suggest? We're here to take your suggestions and implement them into our plan. So, because we wanted to fit some of the curvatures on the building, that's our signature brand look. But we can soften it with 100% of the brick. The brick will match clearly the screen wall in front. It'll match the entire building will go in. We'll pick whatever brick amongst those three that is suggested.
Preliminary.
It's just conceptual. So just so you know, for conceptual, we just provide comments, guidance, that sort of thing. There's no vote.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, if you've got to push.
Well, it was
that-
accurate. We did give out all our
Even more than
approvals.
I think you just have to confirm, push that thing as far away from CVS as you can. And that you try and screen between CVS. Try and screen as much as you can on the perimeter. And then think about, what are you trying to, what's your message to the people driving by? And there's that crazy one on Main Street that was approved before I joined the board, where it's like the mullet or whatever it
Next
is.
to Aldi.
Beautiful.
I wasn't on the board.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
just
that
don't
big.
know.
It's a work of art.
None of us were here that day.
What are you
Work of
trying?
art, and nobody ever mentions drive-through window on that one. There's no screen. Because that didn't come up until.
That's why the UDO was formed.
No, we've had two of them since that was the UDO time. We've had two of them that have never called it a drive-through facility, called it car wash.
To finish my thought, I think it's,
None of them got screens.
I'm glad we're getting more car washes and it's a great business. But what is, what are you trying to, how does the architectural design reflect your brand and the service and your market niche? And that there's a story associated with it. I mean, it's car wash. It's not, it's a nice thing to have. It's not like the heart and center of a community, but it's a nice amenity to have. And, what are we really trying to do with the building as a sign?
And one of the things you'll see about us that is really improved would be is we really take this to the next level. I'm sure you've heard that a million times, but you can look across the board. People have times express on the internet, look at the images. We are extremely fast and no lack of service for being fast. We have no staffing issues whatsoever because of our speed. You stay in your vehicle, you're fully or drive through one belt-driven system. So we take dual trucks. We take the jacked up Jeeps, everything on there. We're a very large open space on the inside, which is a nice fussy glass roof, which makes everybody feel safe. Because part of this is psychological too. Like, why do you always go through a car wash and in a dark dungeon? This is a tunnel that is clean. We have shifts that clean throughout the day. It's wide open, more than 10 foot on one side, 8 foot on the other, glass down the side, plexiglass roof. So it's a very safe, amazing car wash.
And can you see the cars going through from the outside
Yes.
on one side, on the CVS side? Is that where the glass
Well,
is?
so we have glass on both sides.
Both sides.
Clearly on the north side, you have the vacuums and then the trees on the other side of that. On the CVS side, we have glass going down the side of that as well, which is our entry side. And then, yes, depending on how much buffering we have in there and what's want to be seen from you guys on the buffering, that would be how much you can see inside of the
Okay, as you mentioned the website, is that fairly accurate of what you think this is?
100% outside of, so that's the red metal ACM panels. That's what we're changing to brick and actual brick. Any of the outside is where suggestions and stuff.
Yeah, that's a little much, but maybe toning down a little bit. I like it all except.
So anywhere you see red, imagine brick. On the tall towers, where the tan is the Nietzsche high, and we would make that brick as well.
Yeah, all right. That's a lot.
There's a lot there.
That's a lot.
I mean, it's very unique. It's very creative, and those unfortunately are also the parts that make it a little bit not like Somerville. Even though Somerville is unique and creative, I wouldn't look at this and go, okay, aside from the business aspect of it, I don't know, architecturally, I wouldn't want to see this type of entry all over town.
It's a lot.
There's a lot.
That's all. It might be too much as.
So
this is pulled up.
I think just finding a balance between, I mean, name branding is very important, and we certainly understand that. Finding a balance between that branding, the unique qualities, the things that make it unique. I love all the glass and everything, and the massing is great. I think where you're going to have the most trouble with the town is the front, is the entry, the round opening. It's just, it would be very unique to Somerville. I don't know anywhere else.
It's a lot.
So I think that's where there's going to have to be a lot of attention. The architects are just going to have to pay a lot of attention to that. Look at Somerville. We try not to get too prototypical in approach to things. We like to, if this were downtown Charleston or somewhere like that, I think they'd probably really hammer on that front. And so my advice, I think, is kind of echoing everybody else's, but also just to say, look at the front, look at that curve, look at the red, look at the entry door, and just try to find a balance between that design, the thing that makes it so unique. Also, it may be more of a liability than an asset.
I'll be super direct. I don't like it. But I'll tell you why, because it doesn't look like it belongs to Somerville. I don't think, I think it's more than just changing the material, but you're keeping the massing. I think the roof form doesn't look right, particularly the front. Now you said the colors won't be as harsh because they'll be brick. I get that, but this curve of that middle element just seems, I think you might say it's whimsical or something. To me, it's just looks, it's not refined. There's something elegant about Somerville and Charleston. It's kind of got this old school, simple forms, metal roofs maybe. I cannot get behind this where it currently is. We've seen other car washes that were successful that had one gable roof that was metal, and there was a tunnel you go through, and it kind of was a good looking building, and it was a car wash, but it was a building you can get behind. This one, there's not a whole lot I like, if I'm just being brutally honest.
Are you talking about based on the photo you pulled up on the web, or from what they're showing?
Based on the photo, because we said the photo is really representative of what the building is going to look like. So I think I would encourage you to bring your architect next time, relay the comments to them. Obviously you will, but for me, I don't mind the side as much, and that's primarily because you won't see it from the road. But what you see from the road, I think it's got to look really good. This doesn't do it for me. Sure.
Is it the shape of the entry, or is it all this?
I think it's the red. It's the red of that middle portion, the massing of the kind of this smaller brick parapet or whatever, not parapet, but the brick wall on the left versus the brick on the right. I think there's not any art design to the roof. It looks very prototypical, and we all know it is, but it doesn't look regional at all. If it looked more regional, I could.
So with the red,
Yeah.
that'll be brick.
Yeah.
That's what, so anything you see red there, imagine a brick. can
Sure.
match that.
Yeah, sure.
To solve that, I take it the other area. The suggestion is the archway at the top of the roof line. And we'll take that back and address that. I get it. I get it.
Buildings and the town's covered with, and we're trying to get people to start looking at the good projects.
Sure.
There's some
that's
old
one
ones and new ones, and look at the better ones, like.
And
some
I
of
think
his
that's one reason why
projects.
when we looked at the three buildings
Yeah.
there, right? There's one that stands out really, And then like the CVS is that old, just
Yep. So-
normal
Yep.
city
That's
brick.
CVS,
And that's what, you know, it's just not that, you know, good, very warm looking brick.
And I believe the CVS was actually pre-DRB. So that was before this body was around, or if it was like very early in the process. So things change over time. So if something that was approved 20 years ago, good chance it's not going to get approved today or over the last 3 years. So
And that's one reason why, like I said, I did that just looks like a typical corporate building.
Yeah.
And that's not what we want. Clearly.
and I don't think any of us are saying it's got to look like it was built 200 years ago or for the Model T or whatever.
What is the roof made out of?
It's a roof, so the roof, so.
Is it metal or is it
no,
glass?
It's a clear plexiglass.
That's what it looks like.
Yep.
So it's barrel shaped?
Yeah, so the roof line, going down the whole building as it is, the roof line, steel beams go back every 10 foot. And it's plexiglass all the way down the roof line. Correct. Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So one thing they do have, I'm Jennifer Audi, I'm with Bowman, and we're representing the client at this time. They do have a very nice kind of barn design that is a lot more rustic and might be a different look completely that they could do. It's something that they were working to look at Carnes Crossroads, which has some pretty strict guidelines over there. So that's something that we can.
Well, I was thinking,
Not a barn.
well, I'd have to see it.
More that
Depends on what you
rustic.
mean, but I was thinking, I'm not gonna want to hear this, but is it the bus depot downtown Charleston it's a very simple roof. I know it's a different scale, different context, all that, but just much more simple. It depends on what you're visualizing as barn versus what we're visualizing as barn. I have to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like metal roofing kind of thing.
Do you have one that's been built like that already?
We have some that have been built with the shiplap and all that.
Is that something we can pull up now and look at?
We're trying to get you a picture of it right now.
Yeah, the reason I'm Trevor. I'm one of the managing partners of Olympus Pine. So we've done over 200 nationwide, and so we're very good at adapting to certain circumstances. And our model is to build in the nicest places in the nicest cities. So this design that you're seeing here costs $1.5 million more than any other car wash design you've ever seen. This building here is I don't want to tell you this because some people require it. We have these up and running that are LEED certified. It's a car wash. These are LEED certified buildings. The engineering here is unparalleled. The machines inside are incredible. The way we treat our employees, the entire process has been designed with a lot of data from customer input. This is what they like to see. But we also want to be, we're in Annapolis, we're in Fairfax, we're in the nicest parts of Philadelphia, we're in Mount Pleasant is going in right now. Like we're going in very, very unique, historic, very nice places.
Are you
And
putting
so,
this? Are you putting this in those?
so when I
super
say
neat
this,
places?
yeah, we adapt it to whatever you need. But there are, that is to say, it is still a nationwide franchise that has branding limitations. And so some things were like the curved roof is a difficult one because we don't have that option to really change it. But as Jennifer said, we can. There's some that you would see that look exact opposite
Well,
of
I
this that are
think
shiplap.
To me, it's not so much that it's the end of the curved that I'm concerned about. I think when you look at it straight on, that's something that maybe you could look at. I think when you're looking at the side elevation, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm a little concerned about what that looks like facing Trolley Road. And do we really want the end of the barrel vaults facing Trolley Road, which is kind of an unusual form. And so maybe that's something we could look at. And I think we just have to come back. I mean, I like fun looking. I like the traditional part of Somerville, but I also like, our vision of, it's a community that is looking forward. It's not like South of Broad downtown where people want to go back to the 1850s and have house servants. We're looking to the future, but in a way that's sort of tied into our past of a very honest expression of materials and colors and practical approach to problem solving, and really not saying, look at me, aren't I all that? You know, that's what we're trying to steer away from, is unnecessary attention pointing to your building. Do enough so that people say, that's really awesome. But not just do, oh, we,
Yeah, go blue.
in other towns, this is a good fit for something.
Well, and I heard what you said. Sounds like a great company, with good cause and purpose. But we have to protect the regional architecture of this area. So it's got to look like that. I know saying it has to look like Somerville is such a, almost it's a limiting palette to look at, but it has to look low country, it has to look South Carolina. Yeah, designed for Somerville. Does it have to mimic that building over there? No, but it needs to look coastal, needs to look like it had kind of commonly found materials, maybe used in a new way. I'm not saying it can't be somewhat modern, but it just has to look like it belongs. I know that's kind of an intangible thing to kind of get your head around sometimes, especially if you're kind of building the first one here, so to speak. That's why I asked about the architect, because an architect would be able to probably pick up on some of that, especially if they have experience in this area. But for me, that's what it's got. It's got to look regionally correct.
That's why when we moved away from the parks at Nexton, my wife begs us to move back here because it's a beautiful place to live. So your message received.
We want to be a resource on helping you get there, and y'all are, or you wouldn't be here. You know, so listen to us. We want to help you get there, but y'all have got some work to do as well. I mean, in a very positive way. Anything else you need from us? Any other comments or?
No, I'm gonna go home and wash my car. You guys inspired me. It hasn't been washed for like 3 years. So I'm like,
He's gonna go watch the car.
It was raining. I just looked out the window.
It's rained every third Thursday now for a year.
that's how I clean mine. I just stick it out in the rain.
In Florida, they're up and down the west coast of Florida right now. Yeah. So with the glass, what they do is they have them do with the hurricane glass. Yeah, and then the plexiglass is a little bit different as well on top for that purpose. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care. Good to see you. Tim, any other miscellaneous? Anything under miscellaneance?
We have no miscellaneous, and then the next item would be to adjourn.
All right.
Greg made a motion.
I move
Seconded
that
by
we adjourn.
Carpus. All in favor, say aye. Thank you.